Hello everybody. So today I want to go over the guided setup in Warlike. So to get to the Warlike guided setup, you have to go into the holotape and go into setup. And it is right here. And as you can see, if you are new to the application, guided setup is recommended. Okay. So there's some text here that's just welcoming us. You can see that this says you might need to press next to continue on to the next part of the setup. But before we continue, it is recommended that we learn more about the Warlike spawning system by clicking the About Warlike menu item. So we're going to do that. And as you can see here, we have a couple of terms that you will see throughout the guided setup and other settings inside of the mod. So we have spawn type, which refers to which NPC spawns. NPC type is pulled from a pool of similar NPCs. You can imagine a spawn type being a box that is filled with NPCs that are all similar, and the spawner pulls one out randomly. Then we have the NPC amount, which refers to the amount of individual NPCs spawned before cooldown. Cooldown refers to the amount of time before NPC amount is reset and NPCs start spawning again. So let's say you have 100 NPCs. Once 100 NPCs have spawned, you get a cooldown, which the user can specify the length of the cooldown. And after the cooldown is over, NPC amount is set to 0, and it will climb up to 100 again as more and more NPCs spawn. Lastly, we have this tiny little text down here which says spawn randomization level. Refers to how many of the same NPC type spawns before a different NPC type is chosen for spawning. This is important because there is a setting specifically for it, and having a lower spawn randomization level means that more of the same spawn type will show up in the environment around the player, which means that fights will involve larger groups of NPCs versus smaller groups of NPCs, and this effect can be exacerbated even further by increasing the group size setting. Of course, the spawn randomization and all of that is taken care of in an easy way by the guided setup, which you will see shortly. Now, we have to keep note that there are many sub-menus inside of this guided process, and you can get back to the guided setup from the sub-menus by pressing Tab on PC or B on Xbox. So we're going to click Next. We could click Exit, but I'm not going to do that. First, we're going to check for DLCs. Okay, so that lets the mod know which DLCs you have, which maps you have, and which NPCs it can spawn. So basically, we're letting it know if you can spawn Rust Devils and if you can spawn NPCs in Far Harbor, for example. It just updates some parameters to allow for that. Those aren't the only two that it checks for. Those are just examples. Okay, so step 2, we're going to enable spawns, which is very self-explanatory. I've already enabled it. In step 3, we choose a difficulty setting, and this difficulty setting is what sets the spawn randomization level and the like the NPC amount and things like that for you, so you don't have to go into the advanced settings if you don't want to. As you can see, I've chosen War Hero already. You can choose any one of these. When you get to the menu, it'll look like this because you haven't chosen a template yet, but I'm going to choose War Hero. Now we're going to click Next Step. Now we want to choose which NPCs we want spawning in the environment around the player, so we're going to go here. And there are a lot of different options here. There are a lot of different NPCs, and I know that people probably, not everybody probably wants to go through all of these, so I included a spawn templates menu. Got a couple of different ones here, and they pretty much just, they explain what they are. I'm going to reset because I had some stuff in my spawn pool, and I'm going to go ahead and do Radiation Wars, and to make sure that it applied I can do this. Yep, and there's 7 NPCs in the spawn pool, so that worked. Now we're going to go on to the next step. Do I want random artillery strikes? Yes, I do. By the way, it's important to know that the artillery strikes and the nuke strikes, they both fall under this one setting here, but the nuke strikes won't start until you decide to launch the nuke for the first time. So basically, when you first install the mod, you have a nuke available that you can launch. And this, doing that, activates the Yangtze nuclear submarine missile system and all that stuff. And basically after that, whoever owns that facility will be able to launch nukes. So if it's in, you know, a faction that isn't your own, they'll be launching nukes randomly. So just keep that in mind. And again, you don't have to have nukes in your game because you don't ever have to launch the first one if you don't like the sound of it. I'm going to enable this. I thought it was enabled, but I must have disabled it. Now we're going to go to the next step. Do we want turf wars? So turf wars, actually it's very well explained here. It says enabling turf wars enables critical resource bases, critical resource base capture, and critical resource base capture rewards. Different factions will vie for control over these bases, and you can visit them to take the owning factions head on, or send troops to fight for control from a distance. So we are going to enable that. You don't have to if you don't like the sound of it, but I promise you it's really cool because there's an interesting troop management system and currency management system. You have to make sure you have enough troops to capture places and enough money to capture places or call in nukes or call in artillery. Okay. Next up, do I want buildings to be capturable? So basically, yeah, this is a pretty good explanation. Enabling building capture allows the player to capture any building that is not already pre-captured due to game mechanics. So, someplace like Diamond City, that'll be pre-captured because if it isn't, then every building you go inside in there is going to have random enemies. So that's not going to make sense if you're just coming home from a long day out in the Commonwealth and you walk in a home plate and there's like 10 super mutants in there. That wouldn't make any sense. So there's actually a little yeah, okay, so you can scan for radios in certain areas that have the ability to be pre-captured. Diamond City, Good Neighbor, and Boston Airport, you don't have to scan for them. I just included them in this menu for transparency. However, Acadia Bay, Far Harbor, and Nuketown, you do have to scan, and it says where you need to scan them from. Basically because they're DLC, and the mod doesn't expect everyone to have DLC, so it requires some player input in order for it to know which locations actually exist, basically. So, did I enable that? I already have it enabled, so oh yeah, and when you click enable, it takes you to this menu so you can learn more about the program. So let's see. Use this menu to scan for and establish connections with nearby radios, giving your faction the coordinate data they need to immediately begin taking control of the location. Yeah, so that just... It does more than that, too, by the way, because when you capture a building, it places a radio, and the radio has a numerical name. And it has a numerical name because I couldn't name it based on the area it was in. So if you capture like a building that is important to you, you can like keep note of the numerical name, and if you forget it, you can go back there and use that radio scanner, and it'll tell you this radio has been found, and like this radio will be like the numerical name basically. Anyways, I enabled that, so we're going to go to step 8. Do you want immersive interior war sound? So immersive interior war sound, basically it plays distant gunshot noises while you are inside of buildings or caves or whatever that reflect what's actually going on outside. So maybe you came inside from a really bad fight and you don't want to go back out there until it's over. Well, you're probably going to be safe if you go out there when the gunshot noises are, you know, way less than they were when you came in, or not there at all. It's a good indicator. It can be used strategically. It's also immersive. So I have it enabled already. Step 9. Do you want to enable full friendly fire? Yeah. This is pretty self-explanatory. There's already friendly fire in the game from explosives, but not from bullets and lasers, so that enables it on bullets and lasers. I have it enabled. And lastly, if you encountered any bugs during the setup process, which we didn't, visit the help menu listed below. Otherwise, click finish to exit the guided setup. The help menu is here. It's got some good stuff if you ever need it. You can get to it from the settings menu. So yeah, it's right there. Okay. Alright, so that about sums it up for the guided setup. I'm going to be doing more videos like this because I understand that the mod has a lot of content and there is a learning curve to using the holotape effectively and capturing bases effectively and things like that. I've been using the mod for such a long time that I have strategies for capturing different bases. I know all the good spots to camp from and things like that. So the next video I'm going to be uploading is going to be one on building capture, and then after that it's going to be a video on base capture, and they're all going to be connected because just the overall strategy of getting bigger bases requires you to get smaller bases with the new troop and credit limit additions to the mod. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. This is Sorry Warful, heading out.